Welcome to Chronic Curiosity, where we have real conversations with real people, from everything to anything, in attempts to facilitate dialogue with our fellow humans, and hopefully your curiosity as well as ours. If you can withstand the show, we ask, most importantly, that you tell your friends and family, but also you can pick up some merch or just donate to the show at chronic-curiosity.com in USD or Bitcoin. If you feel so obliged, you can give us a good rating and follow on whatever podcast platform you so choose. But please feel free to reach out to us on the website or the socials, which can also be found on the website, chronic-curiosity.com. And here we go.
I like this side. I might have to make it shut. Just kidding.
You can switch around. You can move
It's
around.
not about me. It's about my boy.
Well, I
Not
think
today.
we can start there, I guess. Rose,
Yes.
thank you for rejoining us. It's been a while.
Yes.
It's probably been almost a year and a half or almost now.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, I thank you all the time, but every time I speak at these rehabs, because a lot of times the families aren't able to be there, I have a pre-printed paper, Chronic Curiosity, and it has made differences. I mean, families are able to understand a little better. It's been huge. So again, I know I've told you in person, thank you, but I'm going to say it on this. Thank you so very much.
Well, you're very welcome. And I have comments to make about that. But, Dean.
Hi.
Also, thank you for joining us. I'm super excited.
Grateful to be here, man.
Well, I'm excited that you're here and to hear about what you do.
Well, it's like you guys just said, awareness is everything. It's more important than a donation sometimes.
Well, then let's
Thank you.
we can make that happen. So, make sure this thing's right up and there you go. Or you can tilt it too. You want to-
I thought that's how it was. There we
Oh,
go.
there you
now
go.
you can hear you better. Yeah.
There you go. So beautiful. So I guess let's just start there. What I know what you do, but what do you do? Tell the people.
I have a nonprofit for the homeless. We're an outreach program. We're in the streets. We don't have a facility. And I've kind of prided myself on that for a while, although would like to start seeing that happen now. We have 2 outreach vehicles. One goes out twice a week. When it's wintertime, if there's a storm, we'll be out 3 times a week. We're on a thing called 211. So if they call us at 2 a.m, they're freezing, they need a sleeping bag, I'm gone. And it's a refurbished sleeping ambulance.
That's
So
cool.
it's got a space for everything. I'm talking sleeping bags, hygiene kits, lunches. We do 150 lunches a week out of that, thanks to St. Ambrose Church. And just, you name it, it's on this refurbished ambulance. And then once a month, right now because of gas prices, we have a mobile hygiene bus that goes out once a month. Last summer, it was out 2 times a month, 3 times a month. And sometimes we still do 2 times a month, but we're averaging 1 right now. And this mobile hygiene bus, it's a mobile shower. Obviously, it's a refurbished RV, so it's got the shower on it. But what used to be like the kitchen area and the living space, we've refurbished that and turned that into a barbershop.
Oh, nice.
That's sweet.
Yeah, and behind the shower, what used to be the bedroom, we turned into a free thrift store. So we've got a clothing rack back there, bins with, men's, women's, all sorts of stuff. It's all free. So to sum it up, it's a hygiene bus that gives out free showers, haircuts, clothes, food, Narcan, whatever. We're doing a back to school event soon. So it's all inclusive one-stop shop for the homeless.
Yeah, I saw that bus and I was like, that's a really neat idea. That's because it's what better way to service, those people out there in need than have something mobile that they don't have to try to get to. You can try to, get to them in a sense.
All the time we say we've got to meet the problem where it's at. But we expect people to find rides to these places, So now we just take the place to them. And this started, again, I don't want to take full credit for this. There's a place in California called Lava May, and it's a shower bus, right? And I was like, Cleveland deserves to have that. But then I started looking around, and I was having a real hard time finding somebody to donate a bus, you know. And I guess we got time, so I'll give you the story of it. But my brother installs fire suppression systems, and he was doing that, and the Lakewood Fire Department was supposed to come and inspect it, but they were late because they were helping a homeless guy. My brother gives the guy my card, the fire marshal. He says, call my brother. Next time you won't be late. He'll help him for you. So the fire marshal called me, and we hooked this guy up so well that he was like, well, what can we do for you?
Yeah.
And I was really like thrown back because that's this, I felt like the city was asking me, what can we do?
Sure.
So I said, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary, and I explained the bus idea to him. I said, I've called the bus systems, I've called schools. And he goes, well, I don't have a bus. He goes, but my family has an old RV we're not using anymore. You can have it.
That's awesome.
It's yours. That's literally how the conversation went. And he just gave me his family RV.
How long ago was that?
That was in 2018. 2017, something like that. Yeah, 2018. And then he goes, the fire department really likes your cause. Do you mind if they help turn it into what you want? I was like, great, yeah, I can put my construction crew on hold. Like, absolutely.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you can help, right?
So I thought about it, though, and I'm like, I have this opportunity. Why stop at showers? Why just make it a shower bus? They need a haircut, too.
Yeah.
They need clothes. This thing is huge. I can put all this on one bus. I can do this. And we just started making it happen. That bus, unfortunately, it had 500,000. Let me rephrase this. It had 500,000 miles on it. And for the mechanics that listen to it, it wasn't a diesel engine. It was a gas engine with 500,000 miles.
Wow.
The brakes went out on it twice. I had a couple issues. It broke down, belts. So it had to be retired. And it went back to the Lakewood Fire Department, the fire marshal, Tim Dunphy. God, I love that guy. He's one of my angels. But it's now retired at Lake Pontotooming, and his family goes out and stays in it for summer vacation. Along comes an insurance company called Optum, and they knew I was having some problems with the old RV, so they wrote us a big, fat, hefty check that covered almost the exact amount of that bus.
That's awesome.
And they said, well, because they're like, well, it's going to cost you money to put your logo on it, and at this point, we were kind of counting pennies. And so they offered to wrap it for free too.
Jeez.
So that's the
super
story of the bus.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy story how that thing happened. It was literally in the logos, even like I was up at 2 a.m, that old school paint program on the computer. 2 a.m, I designed that thing. And there it is.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? So I don't know if you mentioned it. You run, or one of the people that run the Homeless Hookup CLE, right? To benefit and to help out.
It's just Homeless Hookup on paper.
Gotcha.
I put the CLE, that's my own little person.
Hey, well, you got to make it feel like home, right?
I've just figured one day I hope to expand outside of Cleveland.
There you go.
So on paper, we took the CLE off.
I gotcha. So what is that? Because I noticed the emblem. What does that mean to you? Because I feel like it has to mean something, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the heart that's a no-brainer, I hope. I mean, empathy, love, compassion. All of these things are needed to fix the systemic problem at hand, not degrees, not, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get into all that right now, but we need people out there who have experienced the problem. We need empathy out there. And I always use the stars in the heart, the background. I myself was homeless, and I say to people, unless you've slept under the stars, not voluntarily,
Right.
You haven't had a place to go. That's a desperate feeling. And I remember at one point in my life thinking, like, if I ever get the chance, I want to make it so nobody ever has to feel this way again. It's just the desperation you feel when you're out there, and you literally like have nowhere to go. Like, you're looking around like, I don't have a freaking friend to call. Like, you're stuck under the stars. And the guy in the middle's praying under a roof or a tent or whatever you want it to see there. I don't know, praying for shelter. Homeless Hookup.
That's awesome.
We hook them up.
So is that how? I guess you can tell as much as you want. Like, is that you mentioned you were homeless at one point.
Mhm.
Is that obviously kind of what brought you to wanting to do what you're doing now? How did that how did you get to from,
Yeah,
as,
the origin story.
yeah, the origin story, as much as you want to tell of it. But
No, it's
I'm really, I guess
it's a really crucial part of the story that got me where I am today. And it's crazy because it's actually coming to an end in August, and I'll explain what I mean by that. So in 2000, I was in the military. I was overseas on the day 9/11 happened. When the towers fell, I was 100 nautical miles, exactly 100 nautical miles outside of the Persian Gulf. So I came back home. Our 6-month deployment turned into 11 months. I didn't see land for almost like a year straight. Now, when I just turned 21, coming off of the ship, I've been locked up for a year in the middle of the water. Granted, felt great, had a purpose to be there, but I had an underlying disease called alcoholism and nobody to put it in check. And I was just off the boat in 21. So I came home a homeless veteran. I was a mess. I was drinking, partying, doing my thing. 2008, I'm not going to, it was just drink trouble. 2008 is kind of where it all stopped. Went to a place called the Keating Center. Jack Mulhall saved my life. He runs that place. This dude took me in 2008. Well, I'm sorry, it was 2006 because it was the second attempt. My second attempt there was the one that stuck. The first one, I came in, no ID, no insurance. My beard was down to here. I had long hair. I didn't look like Jason Momoa. Just like this guy. I look like Charles Manson. Like, that look doesn't go with me, right? Like,
wasn't very kempt, is what you're saying.
I always tell people, he took me in looking like Charles Manson in the flesh. And I had nothing to my name. I had the right answer for him, and that was it. And the answer was, he said, "What are you willing to do?" I said, "Anything." And if I didn't say anything, like I told her on the way here, like, you better come back when you're ready. Mm. So 2008, I go to get sober, get off the streets, realize this isn't the life I want to live. I am fighting professionally at this time. And I had a fight coming up, and Jack Mulhall, I told him, I said, "Hey man, I got a fight coming up." I says, "Do I cancel the fight because I'm in rehab? Or he says, "Did you sign a contract?" I said, "Yeah." And Jack is an old school dude. He's not around anymore. Like old school. He says, "You signed a piece of paper. You're going to be a man of words. You're going to take that fight. There's a bag in the back. And if you find somebody with 6 months of sobriety or more, you can go for a run. They go with you. Sign out. It's all right." So I ran to what is now my ex-wife's house, and that's how my son was conceived. So in 2008, I'm getting sober. I want to be a dad. I'm fighting professionally. I want to reach out to my estranged father. I haven't heard from him in forever, right? Well, I come to find out about a year later, after being sober for a year, it's like 2009, that he died homeless in Las Vegas. Have you ever seen the movie Leaving Las Vegas? For anybody that hasn't, Nicolas Cage, he gets cirrhosis of the liver, sells all this shit, goes to Las Vegas, and finishes the job. My dad did that. Like, literally, like, I didn't even know he knew that movie, right? Because that's exactly what he did. They found him under a bridge. I said, "No, this is all coming to an end now," because I just got his death certificate. I've been looking for his remains since then, right? He was in a vault for unclaimed bodies. I found him. So I'm getting sober. I'm having a kid. I'm fighting my dad died. When my dad died, he was homeless. I just came off of the streets homeless. I did a little digging and found out my grandfather died on train tracks. He got drunk, parked the car, let the train take him out.
Jeez.
My dad was 6 months old. And then I realized I also put it the math together. My grandmother has been verified through my uncles that she fell down the stairs because she was drunk, broke her neck, and she died. They said when they went there to get her, there was just broken bottles everywhere. Like, she had been drinking. There were receipts a mile long from the liquor store. She was in a bad shape. So, like, I came to realize, like, I call that moment the perfect storm of my life. I realized this was my legacy, was to die homeless, to die drunk, right? And now I had a kid on the way, knowing that this was going to be, like, my end game. Like it was very, very clearly painted on the walls for me all at once. At the same time, I'm having my son. Who doesn't like turn something like that's just like it. That started Homeless Hookup. I knew I had to not be on the wrong and had to be on the other side of it for my son, because one day he was going to know I was a drunk homeless person. And I'm going to have to tell him I haven't done anything to give back since. I couldn't ethically let that sit with me. And also Jack Mulhall, he instilled such a solid foundation in me. And that, you know, he kind of had this mentality of like, live like your mom's over your shoulder all the time, unless you go to bed. You can leave her outside your room. You know what I mean? That's the Jack. And then that's how he was like, because you know, getting sober and isn't just like putting down the bottle. Like I told her, you got to change everything but your eye color, man. Like you have to like, it's a complete and total overhaul. You got to be ready for it, man. And I got lucky. I had been sick and tired of getting sick and tired, and I was fortunate enough to see all this in front of me, and I wasn't gonna let my kids see it. So I started just putting like I was fighting professionally, so I was at a bunch of different boxing gyms, and I started putting boxes out to collect hygiene stuff. And I would just go out with these little like snack size baggies. Like it literally, do you know those little, like it's not even a sandwich size, right? I felt bad because I remember putting all this stuff in a sandwich bag and it looked so dinky. It was pathetic. It was like a toothbrush, toothpaste, and a bar of soap and a few Q-tips, you know? I remember the first hygiene packet, but it just snowballed. Oh my God. Like it's just to where it is now. It started with that, and now I have a bus and a mobile dish. I didn't have a home, and now I have one on wheels and one to put my kid in at night. Like, I have Jack Mulhall to thank for that. You know, that foundation that he kept me locked up. We were talking on the way here. For the first 6 months, I sat and just listened. You know, take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth is what Jack used to say. Or he would say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Jack was much more vulgar. And I don't know if this is a family show or not, but
you can say whatever you want.
Well,
did you say that was the Keating Center?
Keating Center.
Is it the Ed Keating Center?
It is.
Okay, I was gonna pull it up.
It's kind of long. I don't want to. I miss Jack. Keating Center is a wonderful place, but God, I miss Jack. One of my favorite things Jack used to say, because in the halfway house, he would always take in stray dogs. Now, Jack ran really like by his own drum. Jack went by the beat of his own drum. And most places like stray dogs. This is a freaking place of like, no. Well, the thing with Jack was like, it was teaching us to love something other than ourselves for once. It was teaching us to take care of something. It was teaching us, we were kids, man. You stop developing mentally when you start using.
Yep.
And we had a bunch of 60-year-old, 13-year-olds in that house. And the other thing, my most favorite thing Jack ever said, is that we were talking about having to get rid of the dogs once, and he goes, no, you know why I like dogs better than people? And I was there. I said, why, Jack? He goes, at least when you take a dog in off the streets, it'll stop whining. You give a guy a bed in 6 months, it's too stiff.
Isn't that fascinating how that we get so accustomed to what we have?
A little bit of gratitude goes a long way.
I find that fascinating too, the dogs, because like
Jack was he was a saint. His name should be Saint Jack.
It is.
He saved so many. He created so many miracles.
Yeah.
By saving so many lives.
Yeah.
How that man is not a saint to this day is beyond me.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
You were so embraced with the program too. Like it's so hard to get people, and I'm sure you know that 6 month, like after they do the rehab, they think they have it.
Yeah.
You know that emotional detox is just starting to kick in, but you sticking through that.
you've got to learn to live life on life's terms.
Yeah, it's not your.
Without numbing.
You have to relinquish that control.
It's said all the time in there. You got to learn to live life on life's terms. So, yeah.
So do you think that so you said that you had a son on the way, and like how could that not be enough? But oftentimes it's not.
I'm so glad you said that.
So like is it
I
because you were
was-
finally at that point
I
where
think so. I would be sitting in rehab, right? And I'm watching these guys 40, 50 years old, right? 60 years old. And they got kids. They're crying over their kids. They lost their kids. I know they love their kids. Yet they keep doing this thing over and over and over. All I'm going to say on that note is to hell with all of you who think that this isn't actually a disease. Damn all of you who think that. These men love their children and they are powerless. It's not a choice. It's not a choice. I really looked at those guys and I realized that's not. I was in my 20s and tired. I couldn't imagine doing this for another 20 years. Like I ran hard in the paint. Like hard in the paint. Like while I was in the military, you ever met somebody who's actually been almost with inciting an international conflict and a riot and pissing on the gates of Thailand? Like all right here. Check that all off my list. Yeah, I went hard when I drank. So that's why I said by my 20s, I was done, man. I was already homeless. I went hard. And thank God I didn't find, what's plaguing the country now, opioids. Mm-hmm. I never came across them while I was out there. And thank God, because I wonder if I would have made it.
Yeah, it's definitely, Tommy overdosed in 2016. And I was just looking at the numbers for 2022. We're losing a life every 5 minutes.
150,000.
Yeah,
last year?
and they said, I can remember when Tommy passed. They said we're in the middle of an epidemic. We're so far beyond that now. Mm-hmm. And I was telling him on the way out, and I don't know if you see this, Tony. I do a lot of support groups, mm-hmm. and we have they've been using for so long. The brain is rewired. They can't even, the judgment, reasoning, the forward thought's not there. But if they have a moment of clarity where they're like, I can't do this anymore, and they want to get help, they go and, like, I know one situation where a girl had been using IV drug use, heroin, long-time user, but she had this moment. And she went, and she was so sick because she has cardiac problems from the drug use. But she was sepsis also because she had used crocodile heroin. So her veins, they're blown, the arms, the whole thing. So they took her, she wanted to get help. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what you've been praying for, that she would have a moment, right? So she goes and they tell her, well, you're so sick, we have to take you to the hospital. You would think going to a hospital, you would have the understanding that you need to address this disease. So she goes to the hospital. They start the antibiotics, the IVs. She is there, but now what happens is she starts to detox. How can we as a society not have people that understand what that is? So she doesn't get anything. I'm not saying methadone so that the poor kid can't go into rehab.
At least some sort of comfort medication.
Thank you. And to be treated, even though she's out of her mind, because now this horrendous drug that drives her brain is now gone. So her whole body's in rejection and she's like out of her mind. She's got to get that to survive. They're treating her like less than a person. She calls her mother and she said, I can't do this. I can't, nobody understands. So what happens? Like it happens so many times. She rips the IVs out of her arms. She walks out and she goes and overdoses again. She didn't die. She got arrested. But what I'm saying is, why does that happen? Like, how can we not have hospitals that understand, that nurses, that doctors, like there is such a big problem with education. Like, I just feel that's my new thing. Like, I have to get out. Like, I taught a case at the Graduate School of Social Work. But I almost feel like I have to get to those nurses' schools. I have to get to even medical schools. Like, there's no excuse. You are a medical professional. It's your responsibility to be educated. When you choose to stigmatize or to judge someone else, shame on you. You're not holding yourself to the standard that you need to be. If I hear one more story like that, I think I'm going to throw up. I won't throw up. I'll just keep trying. But I just don't. How can we miss that big, you can't ignore it. And I was telling Dean, I had done a symposium at Kenyon College, and there was the medical director for a healthcare society, and then there was a guy that was in charge of behavioral health for Reliant Healthcare in Massachusetts. And first the doctor was saying that when you look at all the money that they spend on research for diseases, so say if they spend 100% of the monies on cancer, they only spend 10% of that amount trying to help figure out ways to deal with addiction. 10%, yet more people have addiction than cancer. Then the other guy was saying, Rosie, we are at the peak of a tidal wave of people with mental illness and drug addiction, and society is not ready for it. And he said, even if we can get them diagnosed, we need to have a protocol that is accepted by everyone, that we go from rehab into that sober living with the intensive outpatient therapy and give that brain the 14 to 16 months it needs to heal. But until we see that, it's just going to be chronic. Like, he is an example of what can happen. Like, his miracle was the misery that he went through. I wish it didn't happen, but you are who you are today because of it. When this man is out doing his outreaches, you can just see love itself. He goes right up to that person. He meets them where they're at. Isn't that what you want? Isn't that what you want? You want my hugs, okay. But, it's so true that, and why he does such good. He could drive that bus and just throw stuff out. And we were talking about like parents saying, we want our kids to do service work and bringing them in. It's not a joke. Like, gotta feel it.
They're not an exhibit.
Right. They're not an exhibit.
I don't like to take people out and, it's not, they're on our social media, we have to take pictures. We have to let people know what's going on and where their donations are going. But I will never take a picture of somebody's face. And when I do, it's edited out every single time, because there's no dignity in taking a picture of somebody while they're on their lowest rung of life.
And tell them what you were telling me about the haircut, because I think that's so true about how.
Well, real quick too, I want to go back on Rose. Our job, I think, personally, and I'm going to speak, for me, is to advocate and push peer support. I literally cannot scream that from enough rooftops. What this is, it's just like last 10 years, they're paying people salaries, benefits, decent money, commission, right? Who have 2 years of sobriety and lived experience with mental health or substance use disorders. That's it. And then a 40-hour training course. Do you know why that's all it takes? It's all we need. We live this every day. That doctor who just studied, like literally you go to school and study about a panic attack. Only anxiety, specialize in anxiety. But until you've had your peripheral vision close in, until you've had that chest pain that you actually think is this a heart attack? Like, what's happening? You'll never be able to empathize. Understand? Yes. Understand it? Yes. Empathize? Not a book in the world, man. Not a book in the world.
And if you don't reach somebody right where they're at, you could talk to your blue in the face. They don't hear it. They shut down.
And what was the argument you said was that, the thing of like, well, there's just not enough people to help. There's not enough. There's too many, the inpatient rate's too high.
Right.
Have you been to an AA meeting? Do you know how many people are out there like getting sober, looking to give back and do better with their lives? Those rooms are packed. And then you tell them they're going to get a salary and benefits for doing what they're doing right then and there, going to a meeting, staying sober, and helping the next person. What do you mean there's not enough people?
Tony, so do you use peer supporters at Applegate?
Oh, I mean, they'll make referrals out and stuff, but when you say peer support, like, define that a little bit more.
So a peer support is something, it's an actual certification given by the state. It's actually now picked up by, I know, one private insurance company.
Okay.
And again, the requirements are, the 40-hour training course, and then this test you pass, and you have to have 2 years lived experience with mental health or substance use disorder.
Okay.
You go in and now you're basically, so for example, I am a peer supporter and I have a client come to me. You want peer support, right? Let's say you come to me, you want peer support. My job now is to make sure, do you have an ID? No. Okay, great. I know how to work the system. I've had to do this before. Let's get you an ID. Okay, now we've got an ID. We can go from there. Do you have insurance? No. Okay, do you know what presumptive Medicaid is? No. Well, it's a good thing I do because I've been through the system, right? And so I know the steps. I'm not like having a therapy session and shoving pills down your throat. No, we're taking proactive steps because, damn it, we've been there and we know the urgency to get your life back together. These peer supporters are angels.
Yeah, and usually when I'm in the rehabs and I'm talking to them, so they'll have a case manager or whatever, hopefully get them into like a recovery house or whatever. But there's you can get a peer supporter, whether it's through Thrive Peer Support or like I know Hope Village has peer supporters.
They're all over now.
Yeah, and it's like an adjunct to whatever you're doing. It's that other person.
We're going to be having peer supporters soon.
Not just a sponsor,
Okay.
you know what I mean? And as a family member, like I would have given anything as a mother. And I tell them all the time, like when I have my support groups, they can get these peer supporters and there's somebody to just meet with them once a week to help them get those things like he was talking about, to just meet them for lunch, somebody that understands.
What happens when you go in on an overdose? You go through your detox, your 48 hours or whatever, 72 hours at the triage, and then what? And then what?
See you later.
There's the missing link. You go, okay, go find detox, go find rehab. Good luck, pat them on the ass, send them on their way.
Right.
No, you need somebody there who knows that they're,
I think a lot of it multiple things you've said, it comes down to the understanding piece of it, right? And the empathy and being able to understand the situation that they're in. Because, there's so many things.
Yeah.
One thing I'll use this moment to say that you had mentioned those people that absolutely do not think it's a disease whatsoever. I was one of those people before she sat right across from me here. I obviously there's choices that people make to get themselves into whatever situation they're in.
Correct.
Correct. But once you're there, like you're there, right? Like if you're stranded out in the middle of the ocean on a life raft, it doesn't matter at that point. You can't do anything about it. You're there, you're stuck there, and there's nothing that necessarily you can do by your own power. You need help, right? You need the support system. You need the Coast Guard. You need the peer support or whatever, whatever it might be that saves you and helps you out and gives you the tools, to be able to do those things. And that was one of and I've mentioned it on the show multiple times, is that I've sat at this table and had literally my mind changed in the instant. And it gave me a lot of food for thought. And that's one of the reasons why I love doing this. But that was one of the biggest moments I had, was realizing it was like, okay, yeah, it was that light bulb that clicked for me that, okay, this is something different that I didn't think it was.
You're right about them having that first choice. Absolutely, that's not the disease taking that. Sometimes it's debatable. But here's the thing. Who of us made rational decisions at 18, 19 years old?
I mean, I think I just started a couple years ago.
God, there was no social media.
Honestly.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Still working on it, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But to that point where it's, all right, so now we are where we are. And another thing we've talked about a lot on the show is the medical system. Like you mentioned, my wife's been a nurse for 13 years or whatever it is now. Like through that, I've seen, some of these instances that, and obviously knowing Tony and what he does, like people go to the doctor and they think, oh, well, this is a doctor. They know best of everything medical, like everything. No, like sometimes they just went to school. They just got the education. Well, about this one specific thing.
Doctors work at pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. That's a whole different bag of work. We can talk about that too.
Do we want to say, are they always right?
Right. Exactly. Brought to you by Pfizer. But that's the part that gets you realize, like these people aren't, and I don't mean to begrudge, doctors at all by any means, but sometimes like, I had, well, this is a good example. So I had like a shoulder injury. Well, I finally found somebody that would listen to me, and they said, you know what, this isn't my area of expertise. I think this is what's going on, but these two people, call one of these two people. They're up in Cleveland.
Hey.
They could probably help you out. And it was like, realize like when you have a doctor, because I went to a lot of other doctors, they're like, oh, well, let's do this and this. Yeah. And it's like, it never helps. So I'm like, well, why am I trusting these doctors when they're just winging it?
Yeah.
So like you need somebody that knows what they're talking about, that has the experience. It's like, I hope by, like you said, doing these things and having these conversations and being able to get these conversations out to people that we realize that, we have a big problem here in the United States, and it's only getting worse, right?
Right.
Like you just, like we've talked about also that, you know, the number of overdoses in the last couple years have just exponentially increased. So like, obviously we're doing something wrong as a country
Right.
or as a society or something is going wrong. So like, we need people to understand these
I
things.
choose the word systemically.
Yeah.
We're doing something wrong systemically.
Yeah. And I would probably agree with you on that one, you know, but like,
It just sums it all up.
right. But we can't have people that don't understand the issue working
No.
on the issue. That's not going to help us any, right? Like, so like, I hear what you're saying. It's all like clicking the puzzles, you know, the pieces of the puzzle together where it's like, all right, so how do we?
So if you're in the pool and you have your lifeguard who read about how to swim,
Read about us.
but he's never actually been in the water, I'm not letting that guy watch my
Stranded
kid.
and tired. And
I'm not letting that kid watch my kid. It's not happening.
Yeah. Perfect example. So,
You know, no, I'm not doing it. So, and that's just in that example. Now we're talking about people's lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Tony, whatever happened when you called me that one time? You had a patient that they got arrested, and you were trying to get. They were on a Suboxone taper program.
They didn't allow them to continue it. So there's not very many jails that allow Suboxone or Sublocade, and there's not very many jails that do any sort of a detox either.
wait, so if someone's on Suboxone and they're arrested, they're usually not allowed to stay on it?
No, most
Cold
jails don't
turkey.
allow any controlled substances. So even things like gabapentin, the gabapentin's not controlled, but it's reported through the ORs. But oftentimes they won't allow certain substances. And there's some reasons for that. Some of them being it's stigmatized, some of them being the ability to divert in jail, and they have value. But I mean, there's other meds that aren't controlled that have value in jails as well. But yeah, unfortunately, they didn't allow her to.
And what happened to those patients? Did they relapse?
No, I think that particular one got back in with us.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
yeah, it's that was a recent conversation we had about our jail, and we do like some Vivitrol in there, and I do allow as long as there's a active supply of it and it's a active prescription, like I'll allow it in there, and yeah, I mean, and I've always done like comfort meds, withdrawal meds, if they didn't have Suboxone or Sublocade, and as much as I can so that they don't have to suffer. I mean, they're still going to suffer some. There's absolutely no way around it.
I'm still warming up to those ideas.
To the comfort meds or to the...
I just, and I can't speak, this is not I'm not speaking educated because I know very little on it. I'm speaking from my own perspective, which is flawed at best, I'm sure. But from my perspective, Suboxone is just really kind of turned into a replacement for a lot.
Now, can I address that?
Please do.
Okay. And, so my son had an opiate problem.
Yeah.
He would never go on Suboxone because he was like, Mom, I'm just going to get addicted to it. There is a way to use Suboxone. There was a way to use it. And if it's done correctly, but I I could tell you stories. I have friends that
yes.
their sons just go to some doctor and he just gives it. They're supposed to be in treatment. They're supposed to be going to counseling.
I know somebody right now that has a stockpile, like a prescription of strips. What's stopping that person from taking 2 or 3 strips at a time? It's not being controlled enough. And
right, it isn't. And the Suboxone feeds...
It does work.
Feeds the receptor and blocks that getting high. Their brains are so hijacked by the levels of what they're getting out there now. It's 10 times worse than when Tommy was out there. Everything has fentanyl on it. Everything,
Or the
that's the
analogs.
new
right.
variable.
So here you have a person wants to get help. It's like running with 2 broken legs. We've got to determine better ways. And so I used to be no Suboxone.
True.
But now I've seen it work where if it's done correctly and you can slowly, and they're working a program, slowly taper them off. Now, that doesn't happen a lot because our society doesn't treat it as a chronic relapsing disease of the brain, and they're still not ready, and they go to that and they haven't had their whole head wrapped around it, or they don't follow the protocol that they're supposed to, going to the meetings, going to a counselor, addressing all those other issues. Yeah, and nothing against you, Dee, but if they just take it to take it, you're right. And if they don't follow what they're supposed to do, it's not working. It's not all good or all bad.
True.
But I have become accustomed to the idea that it can work, but it has to be that whole program.
It does work in other countries where they have these clinics where you have to go to the clinic to get your whatever, and the homeless situation.
Were you saying that some people can't join rehab if they're on like methadone or Suboxone too?
Well, not Suboxone, but so I had a friend that her son was a heroin user, and he overdosed, and they took him to Hillcrest Hospital, and they detoxed him, and they gave him methadone. Sure. Now, Hillcrest Hospital is a Cleveland Clinic hospital. So he detoxes, he gets through it. He wants to get help. Now there's no peer supporter. There was no social worker that understood. There was really nobody except his mother. And they're like, well, you have to take him home and get him into a rehab. Well, what happens with methadone, the detox from methadone is 10 times worse, right? Because it gets in the bones, and it's very difficult. So a lot of rehabs. And
it's a complete opioid agonist as well. It's not a partial like buprenorphine or Suboxone.
Yeah. So these, they'll call rehabs and they're like, oh, wait, he got methadone. We can't take him. He can't have it in the system. So you send this person home. She was hysterical. She was like, Rosie, what do I do? He had some Suboxone. So I was trying to help her, like just give him a little bit just to take the edge off. Nobody would help her. She called the hospital. So I was trying to help her. And then he was able to make it through those 4 days of hell, because she was then able to get him into, I think he did end up going to Glen Bay, but he couldn't go there at first. And again, that was a failure of the system. When he went in there and overdosed, they should have known that you can't do that. You can't use the methadone. We could have lost him. Can I tell you, that's how we lose so many people. They overdose. They're in the hospital. We get them to us, now they're not, they're brought back from the overdose, but they're in a chronic state of their body's like dying to get it again because they're in withdrawals to the max. So, again, that's a big failure as far as I'm concerned. He ended up, this young man, I'm so proud of him, not to change the subject. He was at that big celebration of life that I had. I don't know if you met him. His name is Aaron, but he went to Glen Bay. He has been phenomenal. Like he, followed did what he was supposed to do and has turned his life around. But he's, 1 out of 10, right. That you
at least there's
have that.
At least the 1 out of 10.
That's right. And you have to have hope, because if you don't have hope, where are we going to be?
Nowhere good. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of understanding, so Tony knows, you guys obviously know a lot about all these things. I don't understand all these things. And I recognize, the methadone, Suboxone, like all these different things, like, I don't know, whoever wants to field this question, but what do, like, cause I know those are two kind of, I don't know, like key words in kind of recovery and replacement of, like addiction type drugs. And like, what's the difference, and why is this conversation happening? I guess like with the methadone and Suboxone, and like what do they do? Like, and why would they not, why is there a problem, I guess, with some of these things in some of these facilities? So, cause if I don't understand it, I guarantee most people that are listening to this don't understand it. So
sure. I think you have to ask yourself, like, kind of what's going on there. Using, some opioids or fentanyl or something that's going to sit on that mu receptor, that pain receptor. And it's like, how do we get them to not take that? There's been neuroplasticity that we've kind of talked about in the brain where you don't feel pleasure the same. And actually, I was going to pitch this to you with the buprenorphine. The reason that a lot of people are on that is because of their levels of pain. So there's a pain control component to that that's higher than morphine.
Like I said, uneducated. I'm out of my depth on this conversation.
Not at all, man. This is not you. This is
I know
a lot
this
of
saves
things
lives, and that's it.
This is a lot of things that people don't think about, that you take them off of that and they're not on anything that inhibits those receptors, and they have their pain levels, they're 3 or 4 times greater than what they used to be before they were on those. And a lot of people, they don't understand that. A lot of clinicians don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they still need something to control their pain. And I would love for them to not be on anything,
Right.
the receptors to be wide open, but
Takes time.
it does. And I would rather have them be on that and instead of going and grabbing a Perk 30 that's a, 2 milligram plus fentanyl and overdosing. So the idea is like, how do we kind of step them down? Like however we can get them in there and, we'll kind of use these medications as a tool.
So is the pain coming just from the withdrawal of?
So the withdrawal, or a lot of these patients have chronic issues.
Right.
So
okay. So they end up finding the pain medications or different things because
you don't understand how many times I always ask my patients. I'm like, how did it start on the opioids? And there's a considerable amount of people that had some sort of an injury that were prescribed opioids, and then their clinician cut them off cold turkey when they found out, hey, my pain levels were higher, I was taking more, and then their solution was, you're done.
Right.
That goes back to the whole medical field, and that's a whole different
Isn't
conversation.
it like 30% that they start from
Yeah.
surgery or from an injury?
Yeah. I think,
So the Suboxone and the methadone are kind of, they help inhibit that pain receptor.
the pain, it helps them to not withdraw. It's a tool to kind of like step them down, and then combined with, like you were saying, the intensive outpatient, the peer support, like all that collectively combined together to keep them from using these illicit substances.
And you need all those different things.
You do.
You need all those different things to be that 1 out of 10. And that's where, again, the education piece where people don't get it. I mean, I even have families that have had children in addiction for years, and they're not even they didn't realize that, well, after rehab and you get detox and everything, how important that intensive outpatient therapy program is. And, it came to me, and I don't like your thought on this, when I was in the rehabs, and I go and, a lot of times I get patients right out to detox, and sometimes they've been there for a while, but most of the time are just sitting there just wanting someone to want to listen. You know what I mean? And I try not to talk at them. I try to engage them.
Yeah.
But, my son used to always, I'm not going to all those meetings because he was always stigmatized by it. He's like, I got my stuff together. I'm a professional. I don't need this, Mom. I'm not like all those people, lacking the humility that we talked about. But that brain, so and even when I'm in the rehabs and, depending on if I go into a rehab that's all men, there are a little different dynamics. And if I go in that's half women, half men, as the men can be tough sometimes. But, I'll say to them, you might think I'm crazy and you might think my story, whatever, but it's my story. But you sitting there and listening, you have to engage that brain. You have to form an opinion. You have to listen to me. Then you have to form an opinion. Either I'm crazy or, wow, she's teaching me something, right? And then sometimes you're going to verbalize. You're going to want to engage. That's such a brain exercise. And I said, when they tell you got to go to these group meetings and you've got to do these things, that's like taking that broken leg and doing those exercises to get it stronger. If you are all over the place, because that's how your brain, and I can see it when they're sitting there, sometimes their eyes are darting all around. God bless them, it's not their fault. But to focus, isn't that so important for that brain to keep healing and to develop that? I wanted to ask you that because I thought to myself, my God, even if they're not, and most of the time they're like so grateful, and they want to hug me and all that. But even if they're sitting there giving me that look, like they won't, they're still getting something out of it because they're having to listen and they're making the decision the lady's crazy, but they have to listen, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important. So, as much as I think back to Tommy saying, I don't need all those meetings. Well, yeah, you do, because that brain needs to sit and listen. And hopefully you will then share your thoughts, and get that to the surface. But, yeah, I just wanted to ask you that because I'm going to get to see him. I'm going to ask him.
No, I definitely, you think all the time that it took to damage it. So
right.
Why wouldn't it make sense that you're going to have to spend a considerable amount of time healing it?
Whether you're journaling or whatever.
Or forming new pathways in that brain to, find pleasure, find, things that are constructive. And Dean, I wanted to touch on something, man. I know you kind of said like it's for, people need to have empathy, and it's difficult for people that have never kind of like lived through it to actually truly understand that empathy. And I always think of that. I think of that all the time, man, because I never had an addiction to any illicit substances. And I sit down with my patients, man, and I listen to them, and I come in just like this. They're kind of weirded out. They're like, dude, there's no way you're a provider. And I'm like, oh yeah. I don't have a white coat on. Their heart rate doesn't go up. They're kind of confused. And then they're like, wait a second. This dude has a beard. He has long hair. He looks just like me. He has calluses on his hand. He's done blue collar work for a long time. And I don't ever pretend to put myself in their shoes, man, that I don't understand what they've been through. I also tell them, hey, you don't understand what I've been through. And I said, and we'll stay that way. But I do know that I'm going to give you some tools and I'm going to listen to you and I'm going to believe in you. I'll be your cheerleader. You're gonna fall down. Like, I'm gonna be here to try and help you up if you'll let me. And I don't directly try and inspire them, but oftentimes, man, I'll challenge them and I'll kind of tell them about my kids and I'll tell them about my life and all the things I'm doing. And they're just like, dude, you like make me want to be a better person just through your excitement for life and your excitement through people. And so I can't ever understand those shoes, man, but I can't understand that everyone goes through some shit, man, some deep, dark stuff. And I try and love them, man. I had a recent interview with it was Aegis. And they do the drug testing and they wanted someone to speak on designer, opioids, and their prevalence and stuff like that. And we got to the end of the interview and, they said, is there anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about? And I said, yeah. I said, it doesn't really have to do with, the fentanyl we're finding in these or the xylazine that pops up in these. I said, all I wanted to say was, I know you're worried about these and you're concerned about these and I am too, but I said, I just want to say, like, if everyone could just be a little bit kinder, listen a little bit more. I was like, I think we could make a hell of a difference here.
2 ears, 1 mouth.
And I told you last time I was on here, you're an example to all those people that do your job to be like that. I can't say it enough. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a high school kid that's struggling, or you're dealing with a geriatric patient that's depressed, or you're dealing with someone who has addiction, or you're dealing with somebody dealing with stress at home. When you meet that person right where they're at, the sky's the limit. When you show them, doesn't every one of us want to feel loved? Do you know what I mean? I could listen to you all day. I love your voice, but I want you to know, like, it's a joy. It's a pleasure to be here with you, to be here with him, to drive out here and to talk. Like, that's what life is all about, And I think that until that kindness is huge. If everybody was a little kinder, like we were talking on the way out, like I said, Dean, I think about those people that are homeless, and there's a shelter in Kent that we had a room designated in Tommy's honor just because he would go there with me and serve. And anytime I hear so every person that comes there's a waiting list that they're finally going to get into a shelter, right? They come home from being homeless and every person gets 1 towel and 1 washcloth. Okay, how many towels do you have in your house? I'm sure you have a lot, right? You don't even think about it. So they put out on Facebook, they're like, we have no towels. And I could not go buy sets of towels. And not that I'm saying this, look at me. I'm not saying that. It's just a different way of thought. I could not sleep at night. How could you? So yeah, did I solve the world's problems? Are there enough towels forever? No, but 20 people got a new towel. And they're able to take a shower and feel dignity and at least feel good about themselves for a moment, right? I'm not saying that because I want you all to say, boy, Rosie, you're wonderful. It has nothing to do with that. What I say to my children is you have 1 chance to do this right. 1 chance. And if I die tonight, I probably made some people mad. Maybe I wasn't as kind as I should be, or I should have been more patient. But if I die tonight, my higher power, my God's going to say, you tried, Rosie. And even if you can't wrap your head around that, I can sleep at night. I couldn't sleep when I knew those people didn't have a towel. And I don't know how people live their lives, but I don't really have to judge anyone. Because as I was saying to Dean, we were talking about how we live our lives and everything. People talk about prayer, and prayer is extremely important, which I do pray for you guys all, even you. But yeah, but it's how you live your life, how you love that person. Right? You could bring me to tears when you talk about your patients because I know other stories. I know what my son went through. I know what parents say to me, Rosie, that poor girl that was in that hospital that needed someone to understand. She didn't have a choice. that's a whole nother aspect. Like we've got to, how do you teach empathy? You do it with how you live your life, right? You're changing not only people that come into your office who have addiction, you're changing how they live their life. This man here, I can't buy enough underwear for him. He changed my life. My daughter, when she went to an outreach.
It's not for me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you had a Harry Carry. We had to do two per pack and have them name men's, women's, everything to make your life easier.
That's the way you phrased that. I wanted to be clear.
Okay, all right, that's all right. But he had an outreach in Ravenna, and my women's support group. Now here's all these women that have children with addiction, which is it's hard. It's really hard to be a parent, especially a mom. But they wanted to help him. So they went and, we were there handing out stuff, and my daughter came. My daughter, had lost her brother. She's a nurse, and everything. And when we drove home, now during the outreach, her and a couple moms went beyond and knocked on doors and said, hey, there were people that looked like they were homeless. They went up to them and gave them a bag of food and, hey, come on over. We've got some other stuff. And she said to me, Mom, that was life-changing. And I said, you know what, Christina, it really was. And I said, those opportunities are like the greatest miracles of your life. I said, when you can love somebody who's suffering to that degree, what it does for your soul is astronomical. You leave there. Now, granted, I know at the end of the day, you're pretty tired and you probably feel like, wow, there's so many people that suffer, right? The compassion overload. But when you walk out of there knowing that you love those people, especially people that are suffering to that degree or that the world doesn't understand, you feel like the wealthiest man in the world. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the world doesn't get. And I said to my daughter, I said, you better take every opportunity that you have to do those kind of things because they are blessings. And that's what will keep you centered because life sucks. And there's always going to be a problem. There's always going to be something. That's what life is.
All these people paying a lot of money for therapy. I could save them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Go give a homeless guy $1 and tell him your problems.
Yeah. Well,
I bet you it's not going to solve your problems, but it might put them in perspective.
Yeah, and it's doing the like you guys mentioned it. Using your thought processes and things that you think about, and you're focusing mentally on something and doing something different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, what you're doing with the homeless hookup, like you're doing it in a different way than you're not just buying a building and putting up a station where hey people can come here. Let's try it a different way, right? Let's go to them because like you said they have a hard time getting to places, so let's go to them. Let's sit and think about and consider and listen to Rosie talk, and maybe she's crazy or not. I don't know, but at least I'm using my brain, right?
Right.
Like you're engaging in something and doing something. Like if what you're doing for the last 5, 10, 20, 50, whatever, however long it might be, and you're not happy with where you're at, let's try to do something different, right? Let's try something different. Let's try something new. Let's and try to see what works. Like and venture out there and be brave and go do something that all right, well if this wasn't working for me, maybe let's try something new.
And it's interesting how people know somebody who could have had his same life maybe never got to the point where they wanted to give back. But his horrific struggles, his history and the family of alcoholism created who he is today. And he's doing tremendous work, right? So I often say when I'm in the rehabs, because these people have stories like, crying, their kid, everything. And I'll look at them and I'll say, no matter what struggles you've had, they're different than mine. His are different than mine. And we've all had different blessings, right? But that's what makes you the person you are. And all you really have at the end of the day is your soul. You really don't, and so if you're like, did you ever watch that movie, All Eyes on Me, the Tupac movie, when he's in jail and his mom comes,
yes.
His mom comes to see him and he's crying and she's like, don't you let them take your soul. I'm not saying he was a perfect human being, but he had a soul that cared. And it is so true. Like that's really all you can, if people are looking for happiness, people are looking for how to live their lives. I can't say there's any other way, and hearing you talk about your patients, and I told you this the last time, it'll make me want to cry, like to love them the way they are. Like, God bless you. And they are so lucky to have you. And the people that he serves, he could easily pull that big, Winnebago up and he could set up the barber chairs. And you've never seen it, but I've seen it. His people that cut the hair, Like I had to give them bracelets. Like I wanted to hug them. Like I want to mother everybody. They meet people.
Our barbers are our superstars.
They are phenomenal.
It literally, and to circle back to what you asked me way earlier, these barbers are the ones who, you got a guy who's coming up to you sometimes covered in tattoos, rough around the edges, not making eye contact, jaded, and you sit him in that barber's chair and you start to cut his hair and you ask him little things like, how's it going, man? You good? What's up? Dude, by the end of that haircut, I know his mom's maiden name. Like I'm telling you, a haircut and a little bit of conversation.
Right.
The doors just slam open. So, yeah.
How often?
I love our barbers.
Yeah,
but it's also the hardest position for us to secure volunteer-wise.
So are the barbers just volunteers that, like, can they sign up or how do they?
That's absolutely. I mean, we're all over social media. All you got to do is shoot me a message, and we send out, sign up geniuses for events, monthly newsletters, all that. So, and then I'm always updating our social media with events and stuff. So, yeah, just reach out to me. It's not hard.
There is something special about barbers, right? We just talked to a barber a few weeks ago.
Barbers, personal trainers, barbers, personal trainers, and bartenders. That's what it is.
I think, what was it? He said he's like, I am a part-time bartender and a full-time therapist or something like that.
All of those roles double as therapists.
Yeah, so you realize like maybe it's just you have somebody's full attention, right?
Yeah.
Like you're cutting on their hair, so it's like they're not gonna go anywhere. So it's like, but you have that time where how many people ask them questions throughout their normal day and just talk to them.
It's the one time too where physical touch is not weird, right? And do you know what? Not just like a hand on the shoulder, but like massaging your scalp, cutting your hand, getting your hands in there. You feel human.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's always walking away from you, and now you got somebody who's digging their nails into your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You feel accepted again.
If you could see those people too, like when they're standing there, they're real nervous. Like
I'm telling you, jaded. Like they don't want to say.
You try and they're like, "Oh, you're going to get a haircut," And I talked to a couple of them as they were waiting. And, we would get them a bag of clothes and make sure they had a bag of food and fed them a hot meal. But then when they get in that chair, and the barber, they're just wonderful, and they transform them. Make them feel human. When they walk out of there, they look like you can just see it in their eyes. They feel like now they're walking out into homelessness again, but
so that's what I've kind of, except we're a triage, right? And we need to go beyond that. I don't want to have somebody fresh looking and going back to their tent. Like we've got to, and again, that's where we bring in peer supporters to our events. And say, where are you going? Do you have any options after this? Well, let's get you signed up. Let's get you waiting for housing, Bridges to Housing, NEOC, whatever. There's tons of programs a lot of people might not know about.
How much percentage of homeless would you say have addiction, the disease of addiction, or have mental illness?
There is an actual number to that, but I don't like to associate the two because
I just wondered. No, I'm not stigmatizing, but I'm just saying so many times people become that way because we were talking about how there aren't places for mentally ill people.
Well, yeah, that's why
they've got rid of all those.
It's got to be treatment first, shelter first, housing earned. Housing earned. Everybody wants a free house. Everybody, there's tons of. I want a free house.
Right.
I don't want to pay rent. Yeah, I want that too. Well, I had to earn my house. Okay.
Well, I think there's something to that,
levels
right?
To this, yes, and when you earn something,
you feel
like, oh my gosh, like the gratitude I have for the fact that I have a bed in a room. Oh my God. Like, you don't understand. Like, sometimes I still look around at my very small house and go, all this is mine? Oh my God.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, I have never been homeless, but I've talked about it plenty of times on the show before where I didn't grow up super well off.
Yeah.
And there were times where I didn't know where my next meal was coming from. Luckily for me, I got lucky enough that it never got worse than that. But there are times where, like you said, it's like you realize, like, I don't feel like I have a lot. I've been in a lot of places where people have a lot, right? And you're like, you walk in, like, there's times where, like, oh, you go to some place, I'm like, what are these people doing with all this? Like, what's going on here? Like, there's like 2 of you here.
And I wonder if they know that they don't have to pay the government at tax time. They can pay nonprofits. Like, that's a write-off. You know that? Right? Just for anybody listening in that situation.
Throw it in there, D.
If you didn't know.
But I feel like, but it's like, okay, like, I know where I've come from and where I'm at. And it's that there's absolutely something to the human condition of being able to earn something, kind of on your own accord, and being able to be like, yes, like I did this. And a lot of it can be with help, but like there's something,
part of
a little
bit is going out there and realizing, brother, I'm one bad decision away from losing all of it.
Aren't we all?
All of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm out there every day to remind myself of where I'm headed.
Right.
If I make that decision, I see it every day. Yeah. It's a good reminder. And I think that we, with our mobile distribution center, the ambulance, I allow people come out with me, man. Like, let's go do lunches. Let's go like hand out some sleeping bags. Like, I'd like to talk to people other than the homeless. Like, let's go. I get bored out there driving around by myself,
Careful what you ask for. You might have these 3 musketeers.
I know. But see, the thing is I think that we all, like, everybody needs to experience that and see, like, and talk to some of these people and realize, like, oh, it wasn't like life event. It's like somebody had a health problem, they couldn't afford it, and they lost all their shit paying for it. Yeah. Like, a lot of us are one bad decision away. And the level of gratitude you gain being out there, at least for me, is overwhelming. Like you said, my heart is full almost all the time. And when it's not, I know where to go.
Well, I think there's also a lot of conditions in the last couple of years that it's becoming more of an issue, right? I can't imagine in the last 3 years that the problems that people have had that you've seen are getting better.
So I'm going to just throw out a name, Michael Schellenberg. I hang on almost every word that guy says. He's came up with the, recovery first, shelter first, housing earned. That's his. Like, and so much of what he says, like, we're over jailing people. Absolutely. Yes. That's not the answer, but tent encampments aren't it either, man. It's getting worse. Do you know what they call tent? This was an interesting fact I learned from that guy. You know what they call tent encampments in other countries? Open drug scenes.
I've heard that.
That tent encampment doesn't exist because it's not a kumbaya situation. There are people overdosing, beaten up, robbed. Right?
Is he the guy that wrote San Francisco?
Yes.
Oh, okay. He's been on the Rogan podcast.
Okay.
We talked about him.
Oh, that's probably where I've heard that term.
I got to hear that one then, because I haven't heard him on Rogan yet.
Yeah, he really shined
San Francisco's a good book.
Yeah. Okay.
I
didn't
have
read
heard
it,
of that. Okay.
But he shined a light on a lot of fuckery.
He really highlights the fact that the cultural difference between. Can we start putting under a microscope the fact that these other countries don't have a homeless situation and we do? Right. Oh, but we know what we're doing. To hell with them.
Right.
Come on, can we stop puffing our chest to save a life or two, please?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I struggle with is seeing some of the
harm reduction,
the bureaucratic bullshit that happens around, like, oh, we're doing this to help people. Well, your entire team of people that are doing this to help people are making triple digits a year, or six digit salaries, like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
Toys for Tots gets 1% of their total pool. Do you know what 1% of Toys for Tots annual revenue is?
I don't.
Over $1 million.
It's quite a bit.
But he only takes 1%.
That's right. So, like,
I don't know what to do with that information.
Right. But there's, like, you see a lot of these places that, and that's, it breaks my heart realizing, like, there's a lot of people getting rich off of homelessness. And it's like, well,
I promise I'm not one.
No, no. And that's why, like, seeing what you do, it's like we're not like,
oh my God.
you're not, bracing up like, a bunch of politicians and all these different, we're gonna dump more money into homelessness, because that's all they're doing is just dumping more money into it that just gets channeled to people that get paid to solve the problem, but the problem gets bigger. Let's focus on actually helping the people.
Yeah.
Like that should be the whole idea of it, right? But it seems like if there's one thing that I think capitalism is a great thing, but if there's one problem with capitalism, is people will find a way to take advantage of other people and to take advantage of other people's situations because of it.
That's kind of just a human condition. I don't know if the scenario is going to change that. Like, there's always going to be people taking advantage of those who can't, take care of themselves. It's just...
It goes back to what Tony was saying.
Always a bad guy.
If everyone was a little kinder, we can't change the world, but we can love a person at a time.
Okay, so with all that out there, you just look for the helpers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of helpers.
Yeah.
I see a lot.
Dean, I have a question. Maybe this is too personal and you can just
no
not
such
answer
thing.
it.
Promise.
So clearly it runs in your family, alcoholism. You have a son.
As far back as we can trace.
So what are you doing to either raise him differently, or because obviously it's a disease, right? So he could have a couple drinks and be fine, or he could not. So how
we all roll that dice. We all roll that.
Rose, I'm a nurse. I listened to your podcast. I wasn't down here for it, right? And I literally I also was like, I'm not really sure how I feel if it's a disease or not, because I have a disease, like I have multiple, and as someone, like, it made me super jaded, right? But then we listened to your podcast, and like Fred and I said, like, I have a bottle of Ativan. I've been prescribed that for anxiety. That's what opened the door for her son. Like, why him and why not me? Like, there clearly is something different inside here.
And how the type of person you are. Like, Tommy was very impulsive, his way or the highway. He was very successful in like sports. Like, he was a phenomenon, and he struggled in school, but he still, was a man, graduated and worked, affinity. And he just had the perfect storm. Yeah. And it's so crazy because I have 3 children, but he's the only one. And yet when he was younger, I can remember like reading something. I think he was like in 1st grade, and how you want everything perfect. He was my firstborn. And it said if your child struggled in school, or if they had anxiety issues, or like he didn't have ADHD, but he was impulsive, they were more prone to develop addiction. I can remember when he was in 1st grade thinking, oh God, I hope not. Yet it was just happened that way. Yeah, when it's in the families, you can be aware of it. And, like my other 2 children would never, just because of the pain that they suffered. But I see it all the time in families where it's just one person, all you can do with your kids. And I sometimes get asked to talk to parent groups. The first thing I say to them, I grew, when my kids were little, it was all say no to drugs and da-da-da-da-da. And what I've seen is I tell from the children's aspect is to make sure you listen to your children, like talk to them every day, keep that communication open, have dinner together as a family. How was your day? And if they say it sucked, let them say it sucked and meet them where they're at. Don't tell them what they need to feel. Let them say. Again, when I'm in high schools and I have kids and they'll come up and they'll say, my sister has a problem or I have a problem. And I'll say, okay, let's get you some help. Oh, I can't go home. I can't tell my parents that. Well, that's a fault of a parent then, because a parent should meet a child right where they're at, just like I meet people right where they're at. It's so important to keep that communication and to let that child know, no matter what they're going through, that they can come to you and they can talk to you. Because the sooner, if God forbid they would choose to take a drink and start to self-medicate with it, the sooner they come and the sooner you can get some involvement, the better the chances are. With addiction, those kids hide it. Everybody hides it because the disease tells them they don't have a problem. And then it gets to the point where, they're thinking they're using Xanax, or they think they're using Adderall to stay up and study, and they've gotten things that have fentanyl on it. And all of a sudden they can't function unless they get that. And then it's out of control. I don't know. I kind of answered for him. I'm sorry. You better
No, that's okay.
Indoctrination. My son knows. We're going on August 15th to pick up my father's ashes. I finally found him in Indiana. Unclaimed grave. He knows the story. Now, knowledge is, absolutely useless unless you use it. You know what I mean? I worry every single day. But the seed has been planted. He knows there's an answer.
He also helps you with your outreaches. He's working it right there with us.
I don't always take him. I just really am cautious about that, though, because earlier on in his life, probably 10 years old, we would go out, and I would, let's say, like run out of socks or something, or lunches, and it would just eat at him for days that we didn't have enough for somebody. And I realized that, kids are sponges. Yeah. They expect empathy sponges. Oh my God, they pick up on energy. And I just, I got to remember that it's intense out there sometimes, energy wise, emotionally. And, so I just started kind of getting him involved more. And it's just like Rose said, I talk to him not like he's 13. I talk to him like a peer. And I guess it's working because I got some overshare the other day but again, he's 13, so there's going to be hopefully a lot of that coming soon. Yeah. I'm not going to put him on blast, but oh my God, overshare.
And I think kids today, there's so much stress with Facebook, with everything, and
he doesn't
a lot
have
of anxiety.
Any of those.
Right. And so many, I know of 3 people that have told me that their 7-year-old has to be on Zoloft, the anxiety, just everything. And, they're going to a therapist, they're going to a psychiatrist, they're not just going through the pediatrician, but that's real to them, and how many kids out there are feeling that maybe they're not saying it to their parents, or parents are, we're not going to get them the help they need. There is no shame in everyone. I think all of us should see a counselor once a week. You feel empowered, you know what I mean? And children, if they need coping skills, so they need coping skills. Everyone is different. It's, again, meeting them where they're at.
I got really lucky with my situation in that I had a dad who was, for lack of a better term, a better friend than a father. I remember standing at the door crying as a kid because, it's been 3 hours and he's still not here. He's probably not coming. There's a lot of those. But he was a good friend, I'd smoke a joint with him. He's the one. I think the best piece of advice that he ever gave me was, do you want to know which one to take home? Wait till they get on the dance floor. That's the best advice he ever gave me. But then I had my stepdad who taught me my work ethic. He taught me, yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Now, to that point, he was very militant. Overboard. So I have these 2 examples in front of me. I've got this dad, this major pain figure dad, right? And then I've got big, John Belushi over here is another dad, right? And now I get to find that balance. I get to take a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I liked what he did here. I liked what this guy did. I didn't like what he did. And I get to create a person from that. And I think I'm very fortunate that I went through that. And I never thought I'd say that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the miracle that has come from that, my kid, I can't speak highly. I'm obviously biased, but he came to me one day. He texted me, Dad, can you bring me a pair of shoes to school? Size 10. Now I'm thinking, why does he need a pair of shoes? Then it hits me, he's not that size. I text him, what's up? Well, there's a kid who was really depressed and he was sitting in a corner by himself. And my son went up and talked to the kid and found out the kid was standing out at the bus stop and on a rainy day with shoes where the soles were starting to come off. They were talking and his feet were soaked, right? And he said, my mom's going through a lot right now and we can't really afford new shoes. So my son called me or texted me to get that kid shoes. So I said, I'm not getting this kid a pair of donated shoes. We're going out and we're going to buy this kid shoes. So like, I am so lucky because of that. Like that's what those two men created, is, all the right and wrong they ever did. So
I would hope, at least I think part of it comes back to, if he's willing to overshare with you, right? It means he's comfortable talking to you, right? And that's one thing I know that we've, because I know we make plenty of mistakes with the kid, because we only have one, is like we've always like we want you to be able to talk to us, regardless of whatever it is. Like we promise you, like whatever it is, we're here. Like we're gonna make mistakes.
I already told Hunter. I said, "Bud, you're gonna have a therapy bill when you get older. Like it's inevitable. Like we're growing up together. Like we're doing this together."
We've said that to her too. Like, look, like this is your first time at this whole life thing.
Right.
Yeah.
This is our first time at this whole kid thing.
This is our first rodeo.
Yeah,
we didn't even get a trial run.
Yeah, we're gonna mess up. We're probably gonna mess you up, but we're gonna do our best.
I wanted him to know that no matter what, I said two things. I said, "I will always be there. I will never lie to you, and I will never let you win."
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, that's
that too.
yeah.
No way. He's gonna if he earned, he's gonna know he got it.
Yeah,
He's gonna know he got it.
Yeah, that's funny because
Certain amount of pride that comes in
I
that.
do the exact same thing. Where it took a long time for my kid to beat me at a game or something like that. I was like, no, I'm not gonna just let you win, like because I want like you. He's gonna know, like she's gonna know she got it right. It's gonna be yours. Like,
Yes,
you earned it. Like, and that's a special.
Well,
feeling.
then he's always gonna wonder, like, going back, like, what is it?
Yeah,
I'm coming at you full tilt, kiddo.
I think those are important.
But we have
lessons
that. We
to learn,
have that
right?
relationship. Like, I mean, we went out to the pool hall the other night. It was like 10:00. I'm like, "You want to go shoot pool?" Yeah, let's go. And we went out and shot pool for an hour. I'm so lucky with that kid. God.
So it goes back to relationships, right? And that building that relationship with whoever you're, in contact with. Like those are things that you can lose everything, but you're never going to lose that time and that like genuine relationship that you've had with somebody, or even just the small interactions of, I can only imagine the people that both of you have interacted with and the lives you've touched, but even, I'm sure it trickles down almost like a, kind of like a pyramid in a sense. I'm sure there's so many lives that like people that you don't even know. They're like, hey, there was that one guy that just, I was watching a video the other day of, it was on some news show. But you were handing out, little packets.
Okay.
And it wasn't like you were going to, it was again, like the bus, you're going to them and just, they were, sleeping or doing this. And it was just leaving something for somebody. They may never even know it was you, right? But they're going to know that somebody did something for them at one point that nobody else has ever done. Just a random, not even random, it was a directed act of kindness towards them without anything.
I guarantee you when Jack took me off the streets, he didn't see a hygiene bus helping a bunch of people.
Yeah.
No. He thought, oh God, what do we got now? What just crawled onto my doorstep?
You never know.
How did you find that center?
Good friend of mine. I was in and out of jail all the time. And for whatever reason, if I believe in anything, it's angels. And I believe one of my angels came to my aid. And one of the things my mom said once, she said, Dino, I was really worried you were going to have letters or numbers after your name. And now I'm in school getting letters, I should have been in prison, but instead, a good lawyer friend of mine named Pat O'Malley knew the judge that I was seeing for a certain incident. And Pat talked to him and said, look, I know this kid's heart. Like, we've got to get the alcohol out of him because there's a person in there. And the judge said, okay, we're going to give him a shot. Take him to Jack's, the Keating Center. And one of the things I didn't mention earlier, Jack, this dude was so influential in the city. Like, this actually happened where, like, a lot of guys wrote him saying, when I get out of jail, I'm going to come there. I'm going to do things right there. For whatever reason, there was this one time he got a letter and he actually, like, this person caught Jack is to be true. He actually contacted the judge and said, I'm going to take responsibility for this person, bring him to my house, and got them out of jail early. Like, that's the kind of dude Jack was. So, yeah, that guy built my foundation.
We need more Jacks.
Oh my God. Honestly, it's like part of when I'm struggling with my nonprofit, there's always two people. As Jack Mulhall, I always, what would Jack do? And the other one is, and I'm going to give him a shout out, is Tony Pereira from the B. Riley House. I love what he's doing for the LGBTQ community. I think he's the Jack Mulhall for them.
Yeah.
With the B. Riley House.
Right.
So anyway. Yeah.
So what's coming next for you? You said you got the bus. You have the revamped ambulance. Is it an ambulance? It's a revamped ambulance.
It looks like a Buckeyes helmet.
Oh, okay, I got you. Yeah, okay.
I was waiting for the faces. Yep.
Yeah. So you do meals and stuff out of that on a weekly basis. Is that right? Is it you do the meals out of that, or what do you do out of that?
So St. Ambrose gives us 150 lunches a week, and then the Mad Batter Bakery gives us their leftover donuts. So, like, on the weekends, I'm going to go out and do donuts and coffee and lunches and socks and toilet paper and washcloths and blah, 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 Narcan, whatever, and hand that out. And that goes out. I have my kid every other weekend, and when I'm with him, I try to just make it about him because we do a lot for the nonprofit. We do a lot together with that. So I try to remember that, I'm not just a nonprofit. I'm a dad.
Right.
So I try to make my time with him about him. So if I have him that weekend, I'll go out on a Monday. If I don't have him, I'm going out on Sunday. And then guarantee I'm usually out on Thursday as well. So, and then, like I said, there's this thing called 211 where if you're having an emergency or a problem or you need to find resources, you call 211 and you tell them what you need. And if we're on that list of things you need, they'll connect you to me. And so, like, we'll do care packages. We do a lot of those. I forgot to mention those. Jeez. Each care package has 3 pair of pants, 3 t-shirts. If it's the winter, they're a little different, but I'll give you the summer one now. 3 pants, 3 t-shirts, a hoodie, socks, pair of shoes, a belt, hygiene packet. I'm forgetting something. That's all right. Underwear. And the underwear, right?
It's all the underwear.
It's a complete. It's a complete package, right? It's a complete care package. So, and those, I have the stats on that. I think we're up to like 53 care packages right now this year. Yeah, so I'm only halfway through, but we give out a lot of care packages, and those are out anytime. I mean, it's my full time thing.
Tell them about the dental thing you were telling me about on the way. That's coming up. Oh my gosh,
that's coming up. So we've got a couple major events that are coming up that I'm excited to have happen in here. We're partnering with the Cleveland Clinic's Stephanie Tubbs Jones Health Center. We're doing a back to school event. It's just school supplies for the kids in the East Cleveland Buckeye area.
Okay.
And then November, I'll make sure I say these in order. November, there's a 2-day event. It's at the Huntington Convocation Center. Now, they're gonna have over 100 dentists there, giving free dental work to anyone. No questions asked. No, don't need to see your W-2, your income. Like, no, you come there. You say you need and to my surprise, I just found out that they're even going to be doing some small cosmetic stuff. So people that don't have teeth.
Yeah.
They'll give them flippers so they have teeth or a bridge, right? That's why it's a 2-day event because they're going to have to come back for their. So it's insane. And I'm so excited to be a part of that because it's huge. I mean, it's huge. We'll be there doing the haircuts, giving out food, giving out access to things like resources. A lot of people don't even know about Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless. And I cannot speak highly enough about them. They have a Bridges to Housing program. A lot of people don't know about. At any rate, so yeah.
You said that was in November. They're doing.
That's in November. Yeah, we're gonna be all hands on deck for that.
Do you know when that is? Is it, do the dates on that? Or
18th and 19th.
Okay.
Did I not say that? Sorry.
That's all right. I just want to make sure it was out there.
Yeah, it's a 2-day event. I might not have. But then after that, we will be
Women's Recovery. You said something.
Oh, that's before that. We got the Women's Recovery Center, September 1st. That's a Thursday from 2 to 5. The MedWorks Dental Clinic, Stephanie Tubbs Jones Health Back to School.
Is your Facebook page the fastest way to find all of these dates and resources and things?
100%.
Okay.
Our website, it hasn't been updated probably since like 1973. But
So go to the Facebook.
there's a reason for that. It costs money. And again, we're not a non, like I tell people all the time, like, you know, that bus was donated on love. But it doesn't run on love. It runs on Petro. That shit is expensive.
Real expensive these days. Yeah.
So yeah. That, and our social media is, if you go to Facebook and shoot a message, you're talking to me. If you go to Instagram and shoot that a message, you're talking to me. Thanks to my 13-year-old, we now have TikTok.
There you go. All the kids are using it. That's what they tell me.
I guess for whatever reason, it's the one social media outlet his mom lets him have.
Well, I'll make sure. I'll make sure to link all those. But I just wanted to make sure I think about what you have in the future. You're talking about doing something bigger too. Or it seemed like you have. Do you have anything like specific in mind that you're like, oh, you got something?
Oh my God!
Yes. Anything you'd like to tell us about?
A wish list of things that. Oh,
what are you working on?
Lord have mercy, man. Honestly, right now, and for anybody listening, I apologize if somebody's reached out to me for something and I haven't gotten back to you. Like, we are insanely swamped. We have a grant. It's our only grant that we have. It's the only thing that allows me to do this for a job. And it expires soon. And the grant is to hand out Narcan. We get paid based on the amount of Narcan we put into the community. And that grant's ending soon. We have to like try to apply for that again. And it's always and then they didn't extend it. I'm an ex-homeless felon, like I've got people that do that stuff for me. That help me out with that. Volunteers.
We all need a little bit of help.
No, that's what I'm not. This is Homeless Hookup is Cleveland. I'm not
for now.
That
right?
Yeah,
Cleveland for now.
Right? No, it's. I'm just like literally. I'm boots on the ground, man.
Yeah.
It's my board mamas who run this. My board members. I feel like sometimes. Like a monkey with a gun, I'm just having fun. I'm just out there doing my thing, helping people, handing out donations, and every now and then I need my board members to rein me in and be like, yeah, we got to do some writing today, Dean, sit at the computer. I have a hard time sitting down when I know there's so many people waiting for me to get the hell out there.
So I know we have some listeners who aren't even in Ohio. If they want to help you, so obviously if they're out of state, volunteering might not be the option.
Mm-hmm.
Money, right? How can they help you? If they can financially help you in any way,
or any other way,
or any way. What is the
Well,
what's
I mean,
the best
we're
way
a
to get in touch with
501c3. All things are, it's a write-off. If you got the money to help out, I mean, by all means, that should be in the rare. We got our website, homelesshookupcle.com. And we got our PayPal.
So even though it's not updated, there's
a link there. So now there's
there's
two other things too. There's a wish list on there. When we do a toy drive every year. Last year we did 396 kids. Every kid got 3 toys.
Oh, that's awesome.
I can't remember the amount of families. I think it was 98. Every family got a $20 gift card to Giant Eagle. So we do a wish list for that, and then we have our hygiene wish list. So some people are weird about just throwing a nonprofit money because what are they going to do with it, right? But I want to make sure those people have soap, but you can't get to me to hand the soap. Well, go to our website, order it. It gets mailed to me, and it goes right into the community.
This wish list pulls up Amazon if you're not on YouTube, and then that will connect.
Right.
It'll be delivered right to you.
Yes. And now what's on there, obviously we have more on our hygiene packets than what's on that wish list, but that wish list is pretty much just like what we kind of need most at the moment.
Right.
So.
And on the first page, there was a button where you could donate if you wanted to make financial donations.
Yeah,
you can right there if you feel comfortable doing it that way.
We could do that. We got PayPal. It goes right
but
to PayPal.
There's plenty of ways.
So
Yes.
and now more importantly, like I want to the people that like can't donate because there's more of those. How do you help? You can't get to me, you can't donate, but you love the cause. Maybe you've experienced something like this. Awareness. I cannot stress this enough. I will say it every time I get the chance. If, let's say you can't make a donation, but you share something from Homeless Hookup and somebody sees it and then they donate, brother, you just made 50% of that donation. Like you have 50% in that. Like you made them aware of us.
That's a stat in basketball. You could just made an assist.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right? How many assists did you make today? Shoot.
Yeah.
You ain't got to be rich to help out and donate.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing. If technology, I've said a bunch of times, if technology, with all the negatives that come with social media and technology and all the things that we could talk about that for days, is being able to connect with people easily. Like
I don't experience that. You know why? I don't follow that stuff.
Well, I mean, yeah.
I follow nonprofits.
Right.
I follow the helpers. And do you know how, I mean, funny sometimes because, I follow a lot of meme pages too, but you follow the right people, like, it's your perspective, man.
But even people that don't, it comes across, and like if you have Facebook or something like that, it's huge.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, all the things that we can put in the negative category of social media and technology and internet and all these things that just across the world. Like if there's one thing, like, okay, we can use this thing for good, right? You share your page, share in these, the events and different things, like in the interconnectivity that it allows us, as, just simple people going through our daily lives, being aware, like you said, the awareness, right? The communication, the discussions, the, changing people's minds with little things here and there, or being able to help from a different state, being able to send you something like, we have more power now as individuals. I guess maybe we just have to take control of it, right? And use it. Yeah. And channel it. Yeah.
That's right.
So if we can continue to do that for good, what bad comes out of that? I mean, if
all the information in the world and no wisdom.
Yeah. Right?
It's because wisdom is information used.
Yeah.
Too often we hear it and then we just set it to the side. I don't know. That comes with humility, though. It's being able to look at yourself and do a little bit of self-diagnostics.
Yeah, as Tony has been known to coin the term, being honest with your self-appraisal, which I've held on to very dearly. I don't know if he got that from somewhere or if he made it up on his own. I make a lot of my own. I don't make a lot of my own things up. It just comes up from somebody that I've heard before.
Yeah, but no, 100%. Yes.
I don't know if there's any original ideas anymore. So
no, no. My buddy once told me, if you can't find it on the internet, give it a little bit. It'll be there. Or if you've thought of it, it's already online.
Yeah, that's usually where I think most of my stuff comes from. I'm sure I heard it at some point. Someone said it, but that's one of my favorite ones that. At least that I think maybe, has regurgitated to me, is being honest with your self-appraisal. I'm like, ooh, that one kind of cuts hard.
Can I ask a question too? Because I don't get to see you that often. Yeah. So, I know you do all that work in the jails.
Yeah.
Are they having any more programs, rehabs, or anything like that in the jails? Like, I was at something and I was talking to someone who had gotten into Hopetown, where we have recovery housing in Portage, and I said, so you came from Portage County Jail, and I asked her if she had addiction and everything like that. I said, were you offered any kind of to start the process?
Yeah.
And she said, well, everybody doesn't get a chance. I go, what? I go, what do you mean everybody doesn't get a chance? She said, well, now granted, you have to be behaving. I get all that.
True.
But it was like they would handpick and it kind of broke my heart. She was lucky, one of those people. But, I mean, again, that's a whole nother podcast, the judicial system. But are you seeing more where they're getting some rehabs, like programs to help them within the jails?
So I know they have some counselors that come from 180, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot. I mean, I do some Vivitrol, and then we try and get them hooked up with Dr. Labor at 180.
But no, coming in and talking about.
I don't think so.
Okay. I just wondered.
I don't think so.
Okay. It's okay.
Might be an opportunity there.
Yeah, I know. I better stop working, though. I don't have time.
Well, I just had that thought as you're talking about that. It's like there's so many people maybe this is just me personally speaking. Growing up, you think we live in the United States, and we have this idea of that this is the greatest country that ever was, and we're we can't fall and all these, like we're living on, high on the hog, right? But like, it's almost like we've come so far, and maybe it's just me just getting older and realizing that, well, like all these things that the people have built before me, well, the only reason they can continue to exist, good or bad, is if we continue to perpetuate them, right? So like, maybe as a people, we need to stop depending on, other people, particularly judicial systems and politicians and all these things, and getting out there and, taking action and doing something ourselves. Right. And it doesn't have to, I don't think we think the first thing we jump to are people like you out there, like hitting the pavement hard a lot. You don't have to do that to contribute to, changing the world. Just a little bit here and there. And if a ton of people,
every single one of my business cards has the words, "It's the little things" written on it. Every single one of them.
Mother Teresa says it's not how great of a deed that you do, it's how much love you put into it. Because even if you do something small, but there's a ton of love, it changes lives.
And who's going to argue with Mother Teresa?
Not me, baby.
Not me. I'm not going to argue with her.
If you're arguing with Mother Teresa, you contact me and we have another conversation.
Right, but that's like, if it's just one little thing, like occasionally, if the normal person does one little thing that's above and beyond what they would normally do, you're gonna, like, not only are you, I've said this too, like, well, if I'm doing something that's good for somebody, but the benefit that I receive from it just personally, like, does it really matter, or does it? Maybe it matters, my intention behind it. But if I'm getting if I'm getting good from it and they're getting good from it, like, well, why wouldn't I continue to do those things?
Disagree. I don't care what your reason for doing something good is.
Yeah, but I mean
imagine if we all just even, like, people all the time. So we take pictures of our events, because I could write about it and not a donation will come in, but you put a heartfelt picture to that, and boom, donations, right? And a lot of people are like, "Well, you doing it for the right? You taking a picture, doing it for this?" And in my head, I know that's not true, but what I want to say is, who cares? What are you doing?
Right.
Could you imagine who cares? We all just got out there because we got something out of it and helped somebody who couldn't help themselves.
Right.
And we stopped judging why you were doing it.
Right. Well, that's my what I usually say is,
who cares?
Does it really matter why I'm doing something if it's benefiting somebody else? Like, if
we got people doing evil for no reason, we can't just help somebody because.
But I guess that the point is, sometimes when you do something to benefit somebody else, you get that feedback loop of, wow, that felt really good to help somebody. So even if that's your sole motivator to walk, to be able to go home at night and sleep good, because you help somebody out, even if that's your sole motivator to help somebody, then by all means, be selfish
100%.
And go help somebody. Right?
And don't tell everybody about it. Just do it and enjoy it for the real reason, for just loving.
Or even if it makes you feel good and you just want to share somebody doing something good. It's that whole piece of connecting somebody to somebody that can do good.
The word I've recently heard a lot, and I haven't heard it, maybe it was like last 10 years, self-care.
Yeah.
That word is like,
it's a new one.
Pop now, right? Self-care, self-care. Do you know how badly I wish people knew what kind of self-care is provided when you're helping someone who can't help themselves? Like, helping others helps me every single day. I can't, like, I got to take care of me. So go help somebody who can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing with addiction recovery. They have to find their way. They have to build themselves. But the ones that really succeed are the ones that reach out and help another person. I oftentimes, when I'm talking in the rehabs, I'll say, you're going to fall down. We all fall down. If you can find the strength to take that next step, but you reach out your hand and help the person next to you, your steps are going to get stronger.
I've never seen anybody fall so far down on their face where they started doing the next right thing every step of the way. I've never seen somebody do the right thing every step of the way, fall so far down they couldn't get back up. It doesn't happen. Like, if you hit rock bottom and then you start doing all the right moves, you're not going to stay at rock bottom. Right. That's not how it works, right?
Right, and it's not a straight. It's up and down.
Oh, no, it's
and
up.
That's okay. That's what life is.
I was in the Keating Center twice. I didn't get it the first time.
Lots of times when I'm in the rehabs, they'll come up, they'll be like, I don't know, Rosie, I was doing so good, and I had a year sober, and then I'm like, why are you crying? You had a year sober. Do you know how much that brain healed? How proud you should be of that. Yeah, it's inherent to relapse, but you're back on the program. And I take that to my light. Yeah, maybe I wasn't what I should have been this week, but you know what? Get back, keep trying. That's all you can do. That's the journey of life.
Yeah, I've heard it before too, and I've even said this before. Because I even gave Dr. Phil a shout out. Because I used to think he
can be a little combative.
But I heard a conversation with him one time, and I think it was on a podcast or something like that. So he wasn't trying to it didn't seem like he was putting on that TV personality, right?
Yeah.
But he talked about, a lot of the times when he's dealt with people, when he's actually seen progress, it's one day obviously it's one step at a time, one day at a time, 1 week,
right,
1 month,
right,
1 year. And if you continue, and if you hold on to your setbacks too hard, and you think, well, I failed at this, or I took a step back. Well, there's no point. Well, if you can let go of that and just continue to try to be a little better each day, even you're going to have times where you fall back, and you're going to have times where you get a real big setback. But if you continue to try to do that, and you look back, and it might take you 6 months, and you might not see any progress. But eventually, if you just try to do a little better each day, you look back a year or 2 years, you're going to you will surprise yourself and go, oh, I can't believe I got here.
It's surreal.
But we too often think, I was really good. Like you said, I was really good for a year, and then, so I might as well just give it up now. Like, what? Whoa. Yeah. No, don't give it up. Keep on going, because 1 year, what? If you're going to live to, 50, 60, 70, 80,
yeah.
I used for over 10 years. 1 year was not going to fix me. A good friend of mine, Tim Misney, some people probably know his name. He's got 250 billboards.
Yeah, Misney makes him pay.
That's right. He's a good friend of mine. I trained this kid in boxing for a while. But, I was going through some things a while back, a few years ago, and he said something to me that was so simple and yet so profound. It was just the day by day, take it a day at a time reference, phrased a different way. He said that, when a rock climber is climbing a mountain, he doesn't look at base camp. He doesn't look at the summit. He looks at the next 3 feet in front of him.
The next hold.
He is not worried about getting to the top. He's worried about that next 3 feet. He says, Dean, you're on the side of a cliff right now, man. Just look for that next 3 feet. Don't worry about getting to the top. He said, just get to the next 3 feet. And that, to me, just visually and mentally, it just put it in such a perspective to me that I just... thanks, Tim, if you hear this.
Well, it makes sense, because you can't get to the top right away, right?
Nope.
You can,
3 feet at a time, man. And arms reach at a time.
Yeah. And at the same time, what are all of the, for lack of a better term, those life blessings that you're going to miss if you just want to go right to the finish end or the finish line?
Yeah.
It kind of goes back to the whole thinking about people if you could go back in time, and well, if I go back in time, what does that make me now?
Right.
There's a lot of heartbreak, I'm sure. If you want to go back 20 years and try to change things, there's a lot of heartbreak I could erase, but how much more damage could I do if I went at it again and messed it up even worse? No, I want to keep going forward and progress.
Thank God I was never given that option.
Yeah, because you don't know where you end up.
So grateful for today.
Exactly. So why would I want to fast forward and go to the end?
My worst day now is better than my best day when I was drinking.
Yeah.
The worst day I've had today is going to be better than my very best day when I was out there homeless.
Right.
So, and that's just I got to keep that perspective. So, yeah.
It's been almost 2 hours. I don't know a much better way to wrap it up unless somebody has something they really want to get into. But I really like that.
Yeah.
That was a phenomenal.
Yeah.
Your best day is your best day, not what it was, right?
Yeah. I say that all the time, man. I'm truly grateful. And personally, I every now and then I like to make my kid do a gratitude list. He has to write 10 things he's grateful for, and I don't say, you're not allowed to put clothes, you're not allowed to put house, you're not allowed to put food, because those are the obvious. It's good to be grateful for the little things. So, he comes up with a family. My dog, he's 13. Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. These are the things a 13-year-old are grateful for.
Yeah.
But we're working on it. It's gratitude. That's the key point.
Yeah, it's recognizing, right?
Yeah.
Well, I really, really appreciate you guys both coming, hanging out, and sitting down with us.
I'm grateful too.
It's
I did not create, Homeless Hookup. It's the deed that did it and the people behind it. You know what I mean? I was just able to go into the streets because I was comfortable there, man. Like, you guys right now have just expanded Homeless Hookup. How did you guys get down there? I didn't. We had a guy who did a podcast who heard that podcast, and now he's a part of it. So, like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I was sitting in a jail cell 14 years ago, 2008. But if you would have told me when I was sitting in that jail cell drunk that one day I would start an organization that lights Tower City red on my birthday, I'd tell you, you were out of your mind and you should be in the cell next to me. But that happened. For 2 years in a row, I got to light Tower City red for Homeless Hookup. A drunk felon, a homeless guy, lighting the city red. Like, what are the chances of that, dude? Like, no.
We'll keep on lighting the city red, brother.
That's right.
Thanks, man. It's because of people like you. Like, I couldn't.
Hey, we'll try to put out there as much. If there's one thing that we can do, it's
Put it out there.
to share your stories. And
So
honestly,
grateful.
yeah. And I walk away from this blessed every time. And like I said, Rose has changed my life, at least in a little tiny way.
Oh my God.
Change all it takes is a little tiny thing here and there.
When I tell people you got one mom, I got to deal with 7 of them. She's one of the 7.
Yeah, I feel like I've gained another one.
Can't get rid of me.
Yeah, that's all right. Wouldn't want to.
Get those texts sent. What are you doing, Tony?
It's all nice and well until you got 7 of them going, Dean.
Yeah, that's someone's got to keep you in check, right?
And when I say there's 7 of them, it's because there's probably how many I need.
Yeah.
We'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
And we'll keep putting you out there. Like I said, I'll put everything, anything additionally you want me to throw in the notes and links and whatnot, I'll put all that in there, and we'll hopefully be able to help you out and at least spread the word a little bit. And if nothing else, advance the awareness.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah, I'm in the streets. It's hard for me to spread the word to the public. I need you guys to help me with that.
Hey, I'm here for it.
I think they should go on a drive with you one day, one afternoon.
Dude,
we'll take you
anytime.
down there.
Except for you. You're going to be a terrible wingman.
Bro, I'm the best wingman.
I very highly
The
doubt
best
that.
wingman.
I've had friends like you before. In a lot of nights on the couch. I'm joking. I love you. I'm jealous. I want those guns.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys so much. And
Thank
good
you.
luck, and we'll talk to you again.
Okay.
Man, I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Remember, check out the website, chronic-curiosity.com, to join us at the forum, have some fun, interaction, pick you up a comfy t-shirt, or if you just want to support the show and donate, all that is on the website as well. Thank you. Until next time. See you.